What do you need to know about traffic stops in the Muscogee Creek Nation? My name's Ted Hasse. I practice in tribal and federal court in eastern Oklahoma. This is part 3, talking about traffic stops here in Indian country. Again, this applies in Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, and then you'll find a lot that applies to non-Native Americans here too. Where we left off last was talking about the investigation that is happening when officers start asking you questions, and talked about the specific question where, they're frequently asking you about, is there a firearm in the car, that sort of thing, and what the appropriate response is. If you want to know more about that, go back and see part 2. Here I want to pause and talk about questions directed towards other people within the vehicle. The other really popular question that law enforcement seem to want to ask is they want to know where you're coming from and they want to know where you're going. And they ask with such authority, people sort of think they got to tell them. They have no right to demand that information from you. They are, allowed to pretend like they can ask that of you and pretend like you're required to ask. Required to answer, but you're not required to answer. And again, just like every other question, other than asking to hand over your, license, registration, and proof of insurance, the answer to a question from an officer, which is, understand you're being interrogated. The answer is, I don't want to answer any questions. And again, you can say that in any way you want to say it. I just recommend you say it politely. You can say, hey, I saw a lawyer online said I don't have to answer any questions, and I don't think I want to answer questions. Or you can say, officer, I understand my rights, and my rights are that I don't have to answer your questions, so I'm choosing not to now. What happens over and over again, and we hear about this, and then of course, I see it in the police reports later after we're trying to clean up the mess. Is law enforcement in Muscogee Creek Nation and Oklahoma generally pretend like they have a right to identify everybody in the car, and I'm afraid some of them are mistaken in that belief that that's true. We are not what's called a stop and ID state, and then Muscogee Creek Nation is not a stop and ID Indian reservation. There is no statutory requirement for people who are being stopped by police to provide their identification. Now, understand that changes once you're arrested. Once you're arrested, you have to identify yourself. Even if you've been wrongfully arrested, you need to identify yourself. However, during a traffic stop, if you are not the driver of that vehicle, that officer has no right to demand your identification. If that driver's been pulled over, it's because he's suspected of committing some violation of the law. It's because there's some, deficiency on their vehicle, or that they were, made some other violation, or they were swerving, or something else. It wasn't you, whether you're sitting in the back seat, whether you're sitting in the third row, whether you're sitting in the passenger seat. Over and over again, law enforcement will say, what's your name? Or I need your ID too, or something like that. And, for passengers, the answer is, no, sir, I don't think you do. And here's where, I'll point out a place where views differ. Some people, if you're confident that you have no warrants, that you've never had any problems with the law, maybe you want to identify yourself, give them your name, but you don't have to. And then, if there's any risk that, there's an old unpaid ticket out there or something, what they're looking for is they're looking to run your identification to see if you have warrants, and they're going to arrest you if they find an old warrant. The answer is officer, no, I don't think you do need to identify me. I haven't. Am I suspected of a crime? if you really don't need to have a conversation about this. The answer is just no. You're not obligated within the Muscogee Creek Nation to, provide your identification. And, certainly, unfortunately, I think some officers are confused and actually believe that they have a right to it. They don't. This is simply not the case. It's not case in Indian country, and it's not the case in the state at large. We're going to continue on with this series with the rest of likely investigation during a stop. What I want to say again is, my name is Ted Hasse. If you or a loved one is facing a criminal charge in the Muscogee Creek Nation or any other tribal court, you're going to want to get good representation. You're going to want to get an expert in tribal law. So you want to give us a call at the number below, and we'll be glad to talk to you.